right. Okay. Karibu sana. Welcome back. Now, Wakili Biko, let me just give you a minute so that you finish your statement before you took a break. You can continue from there.
Yes, yes. I had actually come to the to the tail end of what I was submitting, and I was just saying that we do not have a leadership that is intentional about solving some of the issues that are afflicting Kenyans, and if we indeed had leaders that were intentional about solving some of those issues, we wouldn't be having the kind of menace that we have as a country. We would have cabinet secretaries who will take in charge of their ministries. We would have PSS that would be very active and very intentional about solving the issues that we have within their ministries or within their government departments. For instance, if we take, for example, the issue of healthcare, where we've seen numerous problems that that are there, the issues of education, transport, roads, and so on and so forth. It is very evident to know a leader that is working. In fact, they don't need to come out and explain to us that they are indeed working. When the former cabinet secretary, Professor, the late Professor Magoha came into the education ministry, he did not need time or the platform to explain to Kenyans that he was working. Kenyans could indeed see that he was working. When Michuki was the cabinet secretary in charge of transport back in the days, he did not need a platform for him to explain to Kenyans that he was working.
And we can still refer to Michuki rules to date.
Yeah, absolutely. So Kenyans could see, and people could see that indeed this is a cabinet secretary that that is working, and so on and so forth. So we do not need people to come out to explain to us that they are indeed working for Kenyans. If someone is working in whatever government department they've been assigned, then Kenyans would indeed know, or they would see, they would they would experience. It is tangible that this person is working within that particular ministry. So if this government was indeed working, they don't need to come out to explain to Kenyans that they've actually initiated this project, or they've launched this project, or they founded this project that is working for Kenyans. We would see. We would need no explanation for that.
Yes.
Yes.
Mheshimiwa Stephen, that calls for intentional leadership. That brings me to our discussion today. I'll come back so that you can also take a look at what we have on the front page of the Daily Nation, the front page. But last week, the bill which was out there, and Kenyans graciously embraced the public participation, that seeks to amend Article 136 of the Constitution that goes into the election of president, to extend the limit from 5 years to 7 years, of course, making it 14 years. Many Kenyans were not happy with that proposal. And let me quote what Kimani Ichung'wah said, that bill is dead on arrival. That is Majority Leader. Nandi Senator Samson Cherargei has tabled a bill. So Kenyans went out there and took their part and did their bit in that exercise. But let me ask you, what is your opinion as a Kenyan, not as a leader? What is your opinion? A plain one.
Let me first read the mind of Senator Cherargei.
Go ahead.
And before we dismiss him completely, elections is a very expensive and emotive exercise.
Yes.
And we are therefore in a country that is struggling and without resources, if you asked me. And therefore, in my reading of his mind, he is like, Kenya, do you have resources to go for another election? Remember how long it has taken us to reconstitute IEBC, and remember how many electoral units are unrepresented as we speak today. With the heat we are in as a country, of course, rising out of these impeachments, and the Kenya is in both socio, political, and economic strife. And therefore, one would think that a senator is reading the moments and saying, are we ready for an election? And therefore would want to think of extending that term so that you allow, as you would want Kenyans to believe, ample time for somebody to deliver. 5 years being too short a time. But if you ask me as a Kenyan, I would associate myself with my leader of majority that that is a discussion that is inappropriate and called for, and therefore Kenyans should not waste time on. But I also think that Senator is being politically expedient because at a time like now when there is a total fallout in the government as it is, there can be a deliberate political attempt to create a discussion that is outrageous, that would migrate Kenyans, and Kenyans have very short memory. They migrate from the post-impeachment discussions and repercussions and start engaging in what the courts described as a wild goose chase, which that term limit discussion is about.
Yes.
And therefore, as much as you dismiss Senator, at least he has created a discussion and brought to Kenyans the worst idea possible to talk about. And he has successfully mitigated what would have been the tensions and pressures arising out of the repercussions of the impeachment that is going on today. So that as the fate of the DP is sealed this week or the other, people will not concentrate on that. They would be like, what? Bunge is now discussing the term limit thing and whatever. So Kenyans are easily driven into a political agenda set by political actors, clearly intentioned to make Kenyans busy, because Kenya is a very political country, and you will find everywhere everybody consumed in a discussion that is really worthless and is not value adding.
Yes.
I therefore don't think that is a bill that would see the light of day, but it is a good bill to engage Kenyans, to make them busy, to find one more reason to cast leadership, because Kenyans are out to look for who to cast for their problems, and therefore when this bill is brought to Parliament, but if it were put to vote, everybody acts in self-interest. I will not be surprised if parliamentarians say, if it is adding me 2 more years, why not? And it is voted for. But it would be the worst thing that can ever happen. But it is not impossible.
It is not possible. Okay, right. So, Mark, what's your opinion? Again, he's spoken as a Kenyan. That is his opinion. I don't know what you make of this. Again, in as far as this is concerned, we'll get into more details as we progress.
On the term limits, I think what the senator was trying to do was trying to test waters. I'm not convinced that the senator is alone in this. There must be some forces behind him, because this is not the first time the discussion on the term limit has been brought to Kenyans. You remember before there was another suggestion of the same. So I think what they are trying to do is to see, to read and see whether the public is going to buy the idea. And if we go back to what happened with the public participation during the same, we saw the public is against the term limit, or is against the 7 years for the term of our elected leaders. And I think I would, looking at the situation we are now, with the current state of affairs, I think we don't even need to talk about adding more years to the leaders. I would even suggest, instead of adding 2 more years from 5, we need even to reduce by 1. We have a 1 term of 4 years. One is elected for 1 term, and within that one term, you just run once. You don't run twice. Because look, if you look at the state of our economy, it cannot even afford to have leaders who can go for 2 terms. After 2 terms, you are given a pension, which is also eating into our economy. So on my side, I think my opinion, if I were to be asked, I would suggest we have 4 years term, 1 term only, and you leave for others to continue.
Yeah.
Because even at the moment, you look at what is happening in the counties. The counties have not even received funds for the last 4 months. And here we are talking about how we are going to have a term of 7 years, which is not practical in our in our country. So I think it is a discussion, conversation which is going on with Kenyans, and I don't think it should even go further. We should just drop it because we fear. Most of the times we hear our leaders saying it's dead on arrival, but give him like one month or even after some few days, and you find the person talking a different thing. So I'm not convinced by what majority leader said. There is much of what Cheralaga is saying.
All right.
We need to drop that.
You've talked about the issue of counties, money being delayed. There is an issue here, actually, it's also in the inner pages of the Daily Nation, page 14. What is There's no money. The budget cuts were triggered by withdrawal of the controversial Finance Bill 2024, and that is also here. So budget cuts derail CRA's bid to craft revenue sharing formula. You can take a look at that story just to have more flesh on that. But Wakili Biko, you know, this is not the first time you are hearing this issue of presidential term limit. The same Senator Cherargei, let me quote, on September 25th, 2023, he also came up with the same idea. And let me quote, a Kenyan lawmaker from the ruling United Democratic Allies, UDA, has suggested extending the presidential term limit from 5 years to 7 years. This was last year in September. He said this while he was speaking to reporters in Parliament, where he said that the current 5-year mandate is not enough to run a government. That was last year. It is also not the first time we are hearing the same term limit. Another member of Parliament also came up with immediately after election in 2023, the debate of extending the term limit. Why is this craze about term limit from 5 to 7, or is it a diversionary tactic?
My learned senior has rightfully told you that this is a worthless cause, not worth being pursued by any right-thinking member of the society or any reasonable man.
Yeah.
I can assure you, Victor, that the debate about term limits would automatically raise concerns, not just from Kenyans, but even the political leadership itself. Whoever comes with such kind of proposals is someone who knows too well that it is a proposal that will never see the light of day. And even the leadership that is in this house this morning is telling you that it will not see the light of day. The leader of majority has come out very clearly and said that it is a worthless cause, worth not pursuing. The timing of the proposal for the extension of the term limit is actually what Kenyans should be discussing. Why now and not last month? Why now and not early next year? Why was it brought in September 2023, and why is it now being brought right now? You would see a very consistent, a very consistent, way of the introduction of that particular bill at any of that, any of those given times. For this particular time, I can assure you that the discussion of term limits is not a discussion that is ripe for discussion right now.
Yeah.
But then it is completely and absolutely to derail whatever is happening in the country right now. We do not want to discuss serious issues that are affecting Kenyans. We do not want to discuss issues that would otherwise be seen to, benefit a particular side of the political divide. And that is why we are having these introductions. And Kenyans should take note that probably even by the time we are done discussing the issue of the term limits, there may be other amendments that government wants to sneak in that will not be subjected to even public participation or even to public debate and scrutiny. And we are going to have those amendments passed while we are concentrating on the issue of the term limits. So the discussion of term limits as of now is completely diversionary, and I would want to urge Kenyans.
It's a decoy.
Yes, it is. It is. We are supposed to be concentrating on more serious issues. A few weeks ago or a few days ago, we were seriously debating the issue of Adani. And then for some reason, the discussions around Adani and whatever dealings they have in the country have now, it is now that, it is now that under the carpet. No one is discussing
even
it
though
as
a court order stopping this transaction.
And no one is discussing it as actively as we were discussing it a few weeks ago. So Gachagua impeachment came, people forgot about everything that we were discussing, and because the Gachagua impeachment momentum is soon going to die, we need to have a new discussion. But I want to say this even as I conclude. A 5-year term in leadership is quite a long time. The only problem is that once we are done with one electioneering cycle, we immediately get into another one. Take, for instance, we had elections in 2022 August. We are now in 2024, and between the year 2022 and the year 2024, we are still doing politics. For 2 years, we haven't done anything serious. We've been politicking since we last had the last general elections to these elections, right?
Yeah.
And so for 2 years, we have consumed 2 years of doing absolutely nothing. And then now, by the time we get to 2025, end of 2025, we'll still, my good friends, the politicians here, would already have, would already be hitting the ground.
Can you ask them whether they are working? Are you working?
So we are supposed to be asking them, what have they done? And what is it that they are going to do in the last 2 years of the 7-year term? Opportunity, 5 years that they've been 5 years. Jurisdictions and even more established jurisdictions than Kenya, they even have lesser term periods than.
Because when you look at it, let's put aside the issue of diversionary tactics. Discuss the whole aspect of the extension of the term limit from 5 to 7, the possibilities, the do's and don'ts, the constitutional requirements surrounding it. So whether it's a debate in futility or it's just something that can easily work. We know right now we don't have IEBC to start with. So let's begin from there. What do you really think is running through the mind of Cherargei, Mheshimiwa Cherargei? I mean, put in black and white.
As I said, don't dismiss Cherargei.
Yes.
Because there are certain meritorious and persuasive reasons why Cherargei can persuade members, elected members, for an extension of term limit. One, you know that this government has lost 2 years because both the first and second finance bills, that is Finance Bill 2023 and Finance Bill 2024, were nullified. They don't exist. Meaning, therefore, whatever agenda this government had for those 2 years, in fact 2.5 years, have not taken off. And therefore, would you not compensate them with an additional 2 years so that they make up for the 2 financial years that they have lost? Secondly, if we are saying the counties have not got revenue, indeed, as I've said, in the absence of finance bills, Kenyans must be prepared for deferral of development projects that were the manifesto of the government of the day. And therefore, let us not celebrate that the finance bills do not exist and then condemn government for doing nothing, because government can't do anything in the absence of finance. And therefore, to be the devil's advocate, the case for compensating this government with the 2 financial years that they have lost, courtesy the finance bills 23 and 24, is a case that one needs to look at. And secondly, the temperatures in the country at the moment are such that this country had better not be put in a full election gear, because that is really where we are headed, because as soon as the former DP knows his fate, of course he's hitting the ground now, full blast, for his share of the 2027 vote.
Quote unquote.
Yeah, because he's a share maniac.
You see the word share right now is punitive.
He's actually, he is, I call him my major shareholder. He is going to start building his shares for 2027 or whatever that time that Kenyans will decide the next election is going to be. And therefore, looking at the terrain, the political terrain, the country may be going into a divisive path or into potential chaos or political chaos if we put it in an election mode. And finally, we were having a Kenya Kwanza government until the other day. And now we have a broad-based government. Don't you think that the broad-based government requires 5 years if an electoral cycle is for 5 years? Now that we are in a new mode of government.
Remember you are out of order.
A slip of the tongue, So therefore, the broad-based government needs a full term for us to evaluate whether this is the type of government we really need in Kenya, or we need the former set of government where the winner takes it all. So on that basis, therefore, one would argue that it is in the best interest, and you know, when both the ruling party coalition, as you may want to look at it, and the former opposition coalition have coalesced, then describe it in whatever words. Don't you think there is a case then to give them a 5-year term to establish whether this is the mode of government that this country requires? This and many other factors would be a case Senator Cherargei may be selling to members to see whether we can persuade them to pass a limit. And more importantly, Senator Cherargei, as a citizen and as an elected senator, also has a right to sponsor a bill like he has done, and let the bill run its full course, and Kenyans and through their elected members determine their fate.
Gentlemen, you've said that the government needs more time to articulate the manifesto and to deliver to Kenyans. But let me ask you, what now went through the mind of first member of parliament, that is Salah Yakub, on November of 2022? That was just a few months after the government took over. So what was then that Mheshimiwa Yakub said that there were plans then to seek the scrapping of the presidential term limit and as well as the age. And then the member of parliament was having a proposal to have a constitutional amendment bill to replace the 2-term limit with an age limit of 75 years. That was in November 2022. In September 2023, last year, Senator Cherargei came with the same idea. In October, again this year, Senator Cherargei came with the same idea. I mean,
no, but the answer, the quick answer with that timing, and that is why I say it's more a diversionary issue. Whenever the finance bill is passed around June, the exchequer, the money materializes around October, November. And whenever it dawns on government that there is actually no money to roll out to the various
something is
spending
thrown to the
agencies,
public.
you have got to throw something that will make Kenyans get engaged. And therefore, these timings are very deliberate. Because
What was happening in November 2023? Because that was just a few months after the president was sworn in. Something was not so serious. In 2022, yes.
2022.
In 2022, because the story says that Yakub he said
That was
on
not 2023?
November 2022.
No, Victor, just like we've said,
Yes.
there is always something that the politicians would want to have on the table to keep Kenyans busy. And irrespective of whether it is an issue of the availability of funds at any one given time that government has, or whether we've passed the finance bill or otherwise, for as long as and that is why I'm saying for a fact that much as it is said that this is a private member's bill, I can assure you that this private member's bill has people who have interests behind it. It has people who are sponsoring it. It has people who have interests in it. It has people who have sat down very strategically, with their own political interests, and they have studied the mood of the country as it is right now, and they have said that this is the best way to ensure that Kenyans, that we divert the attention of Kenyans from discussing serious political national issues. And I can assure you for a fact that it is not even about the issue of the debate or the issue of the proposal or that amendment that is, the constitutional amendment bill of 2024 about the issue of term limit. It's not even about the term limit.
Yeah.
It is completely something that is it is, and I want to say it is something that is selfish. It is something that has the best, it does not have the best interest of Kenyans, and it will be important for us to tell Kenyans that we are supposed to remain focused on the issues that are affecting us as a country, whether it is the issues of the transfer from national health care fund to now SHA, and and all these other issues that are
it must
that
be
are
a
pertinent.
very expensive exercise, because until you call for a public participation at the KICC, it must be.
No, it is, and as of Friday last week, you saw the Senate sent out a memo saying that that their email, that the email that they had given to Kenyans for purposes of submitting their memoranda was full.
Yes,
it shows
actually,
the kind. It shows the kind of interest that Kenyans have insofar as this topic is concerned. And I can tell you that by the time we are done with this, topic, or with these discussions about the term limits, whoever is the sponsor of that discussion would have achieved whatever it is that they wanted to have achieved.
Mark, let me come back to you.
Victor, I now remember the Honorable Yakub, my friend, brought that discussion at a time when whatever Kenya Kwanza coalition had refused to recognize the then government elected, and we were at the peak of Azimio, and we were at the peak of Maandamano, and therefore a discussion had to be brought to recover Kenyans' discussion from focusing on Maandamano and a refusal to recognize the government of Dr. William Ruto and whatever. So it was that calculated. That was the motive at that time.
It's interesting. But allow me to get to your point here again, Mheshimiwa. But we'll look at the constitutional framework surrounding it. Mheshimiwa Yakubu came away with it, Cherargei came with it now twice. So let's get into it. It starts from the members of County Assembly. 7 years, 7 years, 7 years, 7 years. This whips a lot of emotion, because anytime you talk about politician extending, no politician will want to go for an election. I'm so sure even you don't want to go for election, Mheshimiwa.
Sure.
Sure. Nobody would want to do that.
No, me, I want mine in 2027.
Too, because we are here.
Me, I want mine in 2027, and I will be right here persuading my constituents.
Yeah, if you sell this idea to any politician,
yes,
they will all support it.
They'll buy it.
They'll buy it, from the MCA up to the president. So what I was saying...
What about Wanjiku? Because that's actually what went out there.
The problem we have with the current state of our leaders is that they think the Wajiku is the same gullible and person who cannot even think for himself. But we have a different voter nowadays. And that's why you find most of these public participations, whenever they are taken to Mwananchi, most of them, the Wananchi don't support them because the leaders sit and plan for things which they are not even, they have not even consulted their leaders.
Yeah.
And this goes down to our, the kind of society we have. You know, we are socialized to believe that once we elect our leaders, whatever they come and whatever they plan for us is what is good for us, which is a big disconnect between the leaders and the electorate. So I think the discussion about the 7-year term is neither here nor there. And I would still say that there are some forces behind the 7-year term. Because as you have said, Yakubu came with it in 2022. Cheralagay brought it again last year, and this is the third time now he's bringing the same issue. So I know there is they want to see the mood of the public. And again, the same 7-year term was in the Nandiko report, which to me I think they are trying to see what are some of the things which are in the Nandiko which can be supported by the Mwananchi. And if they find the Mwananchi are not supporting the 7-term limit, they remove it from the Nandiko report before they implement it. So I think it's a way of trying to test the waters, and if they succeed, they would still have in the Nandiko report.
Let's take a quick break. And we come back. I also want us to go to Gilgil, where the president is also expected there in Gilgil this particular morning to preside over the Kenya Forest Service passing out parade that is happening in Nakuru County. Over 500 officers will be graduating today, but that will be coming shortly after this commercial break. Stay with us. All right, welcome back. So let's get into the legal aspect. If you were to extend the presidential term limits, of course, there must be a procedure. One of them is having the public participation. That happened last week. There must be a bill presented and all that. But then, after that, what next? Wakili?
Under Article 255 of the Constitution, it expressly states what amendments can be done by way of referenda, that is the public initiative, the popular public initiative, or what amendments can then be done straight in Parliament, and it goes through. The issue of the term limits is an issue that has to be subjected to referenda. And there must be, collected signatures not less than 1 million. The people to undertake that exercise of collection of signatures across the country, or the institution, the government institution that has been tasked with that particular responsibility is, is the IEBC. And just like we were discussing during the break, we are looking at an IEBC that is not functional right now, an IEBC that is not properly constituted in terms of its commissioners. And so the question as to whether we have an institution that can carry this aspiration of Cherargei to full term is a question that we need to discuss, because it may be a wild goose chase, like my colleagues have said, that we are only engaging, or we are only keeping Kenyans busy, knowing too well that when we get to a particular point, tukifika hapa mbele, we will have no institution to carry that aspiration to its full term. So it still speaks to the to the sentiments that we shared before the break, and where we had said that this may just be an initiative to keep Kenyans busy, knowing too well that it may not see the light of day. Because then compliance with Article 255, 256, and 257, or rather 255 and 256 of this of the Constitution of Kenya 2010 may not be possible. Yes.
But what are the possibilities? The constitutional framework that we have currently, the possibilities, it may be extended, well and good, if it goes through the entire process and it sees every dot connected. But do we have that possibility right now as a country?
Yes, there is.
Yeah.
What I may inform the public is, at the moment, there is an advisory that has been sought on whether the country can continue operating with some electoral units unrepresented for reason only that we don't have IEBC commissioners. And one of the issues that we are waiting for at the court advisory is whether IEBC as an institution can conduct its affairs, including conducting of an election in the absence of commissioners, because we have woken up to the reality that we can actually have an IEBC that has no commissioners. And out of the doctrine of necessity, we are inviting the court to pronounce itself, because we cannot truly disenfranchise regions of this country and run a country with other regions unrepresented. And we expect that since constitutions must be interpreted purposefully, we should be able to get a gate valve on how to go on as we are, because whether through political mischief or I don't know, for whatever reason, Kenyans have resigned to a situation that we do not have an IEBC. Yeah. You can imagine today we do not have a substantive DP. What would happen if we Kenya got into the worst case scenario? Yeah. And therefore that is why I'm saying that as Kenyans are a bit very casual with very serious issues like that one of not having an IEBC. I do remember that I've conducted a case where an MCA was nominated, successfully won a petition as the correct nominee, but would not be sworn in merely because there is no chair of IEBC to gazette the name.
What happened in that scenario?
In that case, the court brought a very innovative precedent-setting ruling that the work of the chair of IEBC is merely administrative and cannot stop a substantive a nominee from being sworn in by the speaker, and orders were issued for the speaker to swear in that MCA when we don't have an IEBC. And it has also happened in my county, where the deputy governor, Kisii County, could also not be sworn in, and the court again repeated that innovative judgment that you cannot stop a nominated deputy governor from assuming office merely because he has not been gazetted by. So, you know, courts are there to give life and meaning to constitutional provisions, appreciating the facts as they are. And since we are where we are, and life must continue, this is where innovative jurists will come up with innovative ways and set a precedent in the absence of an operational law that would remove that impasse and Kenya moves on.
I'm looking at a situation where here, Mark, when Wanjiku is asked, Wanjiku will definitely say no to that. But the same Wanjiku is saying that, in fact, that term limit should be reduced to 4. Some are going to the extreme of saying 3. I mean, that's now emotional reasoning, if you look at it. Wengine hata ikatwe ikuje mpaka 3 wafanyi kazi. But 5 years in the minds of the, the mind behind the Constitution of 2010, we are coming from single party rule to where we are today, the leaps and bounds that we've made as a nation. Extending the term limit from 5 to 7, yes, it might work in terms of service delivery, but there is aspect of accountability. Elected leaders would say, because I've got 7 years, accountability will be diluted.
Sure. The 7-year term is not popular with the Mwananchi for one reason, because as you have said, most of the issues brought to Mwananchi always will go for a no, simply because what we have in our government, whatever leaders we have, are not even being popular with they are coming with the things which are not even popular with our Wananchi.
Yes.
So I think to the elected leaders, 7 years is a good idea, because you'll get 2 more years to serve your people. But I would, my opinion, as I've said, is either we remain with the 5-year term, or we reduce. If we have to change, maybe we reduce with 1 year to 4 years.
I'm being told that you're shouting.
Sorry.
When you say you reduce.
I know it's not popular with the elected leaders, and I know why, because one thing we have problems with our leadership is because we elect politicians as opposed to electing leaders. And as one of the newspapers has said, it's our time to eat. Yeah. So everyone will want to have those 7 years so that he can choose something from the covers. So again, there's so much in this 7-year term which we need also to derogate and see whether it's coming from the National Assembly, or the Senate, or is coming from our leaders.
Okay.
And very soon we are going to see, it's going to come out clearly on where the 7-year term is taking us through. It might succeed, but if it succeeds, I see a situation where they are going to put the start point at 2027 going forward. I don't think it's going to affect the current leaders. I'm told
the president already has arrived in Gilgil, and I want to give you a minute each so that we finalize on this. I mean, there's a side of my bread which is buttered.
Victor, I just want to remind Kenyans about the Constitution of Kenya. That is the guiding document in terms of our governance. Ultimately, the issue of the term limits, like we've said, is diversionary. After our parliamentarians are done with the passage of the bill in the House, it has to be taken to the president. And what the Constitution says under 256 is that if it is something that affects if it is something that speaks to the term limit, the president has to subject it, has to take it to the IBC for purposes of getting the views of Kenyans. And once it is taken to the IBC, the Constitution is also very clear under Article 88 on what the IBC's mandate is. Remember that ultimately the person who was to declare that the referenda is the referendum is successful or not is the chair of the commission. Currently, as it is, we do not have a chair of the commission. There is one initiative that should not give Kenyans sleepless nights. It is, like we've said, a wild goose chase.
All right. Yes. I want to do this because we are winding up. Mheshimiwa, you are for the first time here since election. People of West Mugirango, he's here. He's here. Usipomwona kwa ground, I'm here with him.
Aseme jambo.
Sema tu jambo.
Thank you so much.
It's never too late.
I still continue thanking the people of West Mugirango for making what I believe is the right choice. And you have seen in 2 years what we have rolled out. The education sector is sparkling. And in the remaining 2.5 years, we are going to achieve more. I do not need 7 years to achieve what we have achieved in 2 years. But I will, as a parliamentarian, continue focusing on the critical things, including pushing that we expedite the constitution of IBC. I will urge that this country prioritizes enactment of the referendum law and push forward on the entrenchment of CDF in the constitution so that it stops being unconstitutional.
I see what you've done.
And
I see what you've done there.
So that the developments you have been seeing in the constituencies
that was a very good move. Thank you so much, gentlemen. We have to rush to Gilgil, where the President is presiding over the passing out parade or graduation of 500 officers graduating today. And of course, let's take to Gilgil right now. Reporter Yusuf Farah is on standby, but I need to thank you, Wakili Bikashia, Advocate of the High Court of the Republic of Kenya, as well as Mheshimiwa Stephen Mogaka, also an advocate, by the way, of the High Court of Kenya, but representing the great people of West Mugirango. Thank you so much, Mheshimiwa, for joining us all the way from Kitui. Asanteni sana. All right, we have to cut short this show slightly early enough so that we can also head over to Gilgil. Straight over to Gilgil. My name is Victor. Good morning.